Good evening, everyone. It is the 24th of February, 2025. It is 7 p.m. My name is Mitch Cohen, and I chair the lovely group of the Northborough Select Board, and I will call this meeting to order. We are being recorded. We have two members that will be remote tonight. Lisa Maselli is already joining us, and Mike Tijan will join us hopefully in a little bit. So I have the usual hybrid meeting script to read, which I will do so now. This open meeting of the Northborough Select Board is being conducted in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Select Board are allowed and encouraged to participate either in person or remotely. The Act allows the Northborough Select Board to meet entirely in person and remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream or the recording of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Julianne Hirsch.
Here.
Laura Zeiton.
Here.
Lisa Maselli.
Here.
All right. And as I mentioned, Mike Tijan hopefully will join us in a little bit. And we also have with us Stephanie Bacon,
Hello.
Town Administrator, and Diane Wackel, Assistant Town Administrator.
Here.
And I don't think we have any other staff joining us tonight, but who knows?
They might pop in.
They might pop
Yes.
in. Okay, first item on our agenda, generally as always, is public comment. Is there anyone in person or remote that wishes to offer any comment on items that are not on the agenda? And if you do want to offer a comment on an item that is on the agenda, you can raise your hand during that agenda item. Be happy to recognize you. Going once, going twice, not seeing any hands up, either electronically or in person. I will declare public comment closed. Next up, we have approval of meeting minutes of February 10th, 2025. I know there was a typographical change made from that to thanks. I don't really consider that substantive, so just a motion as presented would work.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes from February 10th, 2025 as presented.
Second. Oh, yeah.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to know, every one of them says unanimously approved. Does it not, when you don't have all the members there, isn't it better to do a 4-1?
Well,
Or
it wouldn't.
4-0, because you're not there?
No, that would be the case if you were there and abstaining. Unanimous means all those who are present and voting voted in the affirmative. So, for example, you weren't at the last meeting. It says that at the top of the meeting minutes, so it's clear that you were not a voter at that. But unanimous is the proper terminology to use there.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay, we do need a roll call vote because we're hybrid tonight. Laura?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Lisa, I assume you abstain?
Abstain.
Okay, I vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor with one abstention. Once had a meeting where it was 2 in favor, none opposed, 3 abstentions, and it was a unanimous vote.
Weird.
Believe it or not, long story. Draft warrant article summary. So Steph, you've prepared a draft warrant summary, just the listing of the articles. We're not entertaining closing the warrant tonight, of course. There'll be a couple meetings down the road. Do you want to walk us through?
Sure.
Through items, through any key items that you think will be, getting more information on later, et cetera?
Yeah, sure. We tried to structure it in a way so there were different categories. So what articles should be lumped together, they're not all over the place. So more of, our governmental articles in the beginning, then budgetary, capital. So articles 1 through 15 are our common articles. Articles 16 through 39 are our capital requests. And then we have, following that, the Community Preservation Act and historic articles. I don't know if do you want me to go through those at all? The different,
I mean, if there are, where there's something, I would say, interesting.
oh, well, they're all interesting,
Well,
yes.
meaning something that you want to call out, and members of the board will
Yes.
have the opportunity to
Okay,
call things
sure.
out too.
So we have, where's my list? Okay, we have an affordable housing project.
And that's a senior or veterans affordable housing?
Yes,
Yep.
so,
wait,
exactly, so they are asking from the CPA for $326,000, and also they would be getting, or
We don't have
ask.
dollar values in what we're seeing here. so
Okay,
that's what
all
we're
right.
looking for, Laura.
Which I'm so sorry, which
This is-
article are we talking about?
40.
Affordable housing project at Colonial Village. Yeah, so they're also asking the state to kick in some revenue, and it would be pending that from the state.
Can you, oh, sorry, is this written in one of the other memos?
I don't know if you receive, unless,
So, sorry,
I
the
did hit.
affordable housing is
I
looking
did,
for.
if you look at my notes, yep.
Yep,
So wait, I can do it according to the CPI, let's see, Article 16, Community Preservation, yeah, so Article 40, so page 2 of 3 of
Yep.
the warrant.
how much were they looking for this? From the town, and then how much from the state, please?
So, let's see, 326,727 from the Community Preservation, and 279,863. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, wait, I don't know why, hold on.
I don't mean to
Let
put
me
you on
go
the
to-
spot. 'cause
No,
I know
no,
it's still
no,
early for
no,
this.
I just don't want to confuse the amount coming from the state to the amount coming from the CPA fund. Hold on just a moment. Where the heck are
Is this
my
for
notes?
building a new building, or is this for?
This is
improvements?
for affordable housing, and it's veteran
Yep.
preferred. And the first 4 units are going to be handicap accessible, so it's a great project. And they were talking about all of the projects that have come before them.
Yep.
Affordable housing has not been slighted in recent years, but we do less affordable housing than anything else, so they really want to keep that 10%, if not go
Yep.
over the 10%, so we're
I'm
not
just trying to
pleased with-
understand where the 600,000 is going. Is that a new building, or is that improving existing
I think
units?
it's
It's
a
new.
new building at that Colonial Village.
So it's a new building for 600,000?
No, it's 880 total, but there's different dollar amounts
Okay.
coming from different places. So the
Okay.
total's 880,000. The purpose of constructing 8 affordable low-income, one-bedroom rental units for veterans. 4 will be the handicap accessible.
Okay.
26 Village Drive is the actual address. So, let's see, funds to be subject to CPA funding agreement between Town of Northborough Housing Authority. And then we have the Conservation Fund to see if the town will appropriate $200,000 for the Conservation Fund, which we have done in the past, to preserve conservation land. Another article is the Revolutionary War Monument for $10,758, and that is to purchase and install commemorative monument celebrating Northborough's contribution in the American Revolution. Next, we have the CPA White Cliffs design. That is for the additions to be taken off, which are causing a lot of water damage and mold. And that is for $93,940, and that's for the actual design to remove
I
those.
don't see that in our list. I see the White Cliffs debt service.
Oh, sugar. Hold on a moment.
Okay.
Unless it's in a different area.
CPC,
It shouldn't be, yeah. Let's see. Senior, boop, boop, boop.
Oh, no,
look at
Article
32.
32,
Article 32.
so that's,
Okay, yep.
that could
correct.
probably be moved over to the CPC section.
Okay, I'm gonna asterisk that, so
Yeah.
move to
And
C.
what about 31? Is that also
31, downtown streetscapes, I just haven't gotten there yet, but maybe, let's see. Yeah, all right, so anyway, that was White Cliffs, and then we have the White Cliffs debt service. This is our 8th payment, I believe. So it's 166,575 from the CPA fund revenues, debt service. Oh, wait, this is the 167 main one. Yeah, to see if the town will appropriate the 166,575 from the Community Preservation Fund revenues to the Community Preservation Committee, fiscal year 26 debt service and expenses associated with the acquisition of the property at 167
Yeah,
Main.
Yeah, that's White Cliffs.
Okay, so that was,
That's 43.
yes, 43.
Yeah, and these numbers will change. The article numbers will change
Likely.
as we finalize everything.
Right, exactly. And then the Community Preservation Fund Admin Fund, which they often ask for, it's 42,000, and that's for clerical assistance, office supplies, property surveys, appraisals, attorney's fees, and other professional services, recording fees, printing, or any other necessary act. So those are the only, I mean, for our capital projects, we have the Z School roof, we have,
Can we pause quickly? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
So for Article 45, it says Northborough 250th Anniversary Commemoration.
yeah, that was the
Is
10,000,
that the
right?
revolution?
Yeah, wasn't that the $10,000 monument I read?
No, there
No.
are two
There's-
separate
There's
ones.
two.
Historic
42 and
request,
45.
Northborough.
One looks like it's for the statue, and the other just for all the activities they're planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Oh,
wonder
okay, yeah,
if we'll
Yeah, so
change.
that's not a CPC item, but that's a historic district item.
yeah, so
Unless
that
it
should-
happens to be coming from CPC, I don't,
yeah, because it
Oracle, I
is
don't know
under
if
the
that can or not. but
CPC.
the category that you have these under is Community Preservation Act and historic articles.
Okay, I'm gonna,
Is that in addition to what we've already done through ARPA?
Yes.
That was for the uniforms. for
Yep.
The reenactment. I think that was all we gave money for.
that was the ARPA, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So this is for the whole celebration.
Okay.
They were gonna do a march, they were gonna do a parade.
Got it.
and,
Yeah, I know they submitted for a grant for this, but so every town was submitting for it and we didn't get the
Right,
grant. so-
exactly.
I think we
yeah.
need to, so 250th anniversary is different from the
Yeah.
250th Revolutionary commemoration, so maybe we need to update the wording?
We do.
That's
I
a good
just-
point.
I just
sorry.
highlighted that.
Point that out, so revolutionary verse,
Is it just, that,
no, it's confusing, you're
and
right.
I appreciate you putting this together so quickly so that we can at least start wrapping our heads around it.
Oh, trust me, we have, people keep throwing in articles, so we're like, wow, ooh,
That's them to stop.
yeah, yeah.
This is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
right, exactly, yes. Let me just look for anything else that's,
Draft.
I guess my only other thought on this is I'm having a little bit of angst because it's a lot of articles and I recognize how important they all are. But I know that after the last town meeting that had the similar amount of articles, it went 3 nights and there was a lot of feedback from the community because we went so late for 3 nights.
right. And
I don't know how we can,
we did talk about consolidating, and then if there was a specific question, we could, of course, answer it, and we'll have all of the pertinent information for each article. But you're right, in many towns, in Holden, we consolidated articles because, and ours was one night, but
how many articles was that?
32 usually, around 32 to,
Yeah, every town has its own
Right.
eccentricity, if you will, regarding
Right.
town meeting. You know, we usually go 2, sometimes 3 nights, and for Northborough, that's kind of normal.
3 nights was a stretch.
3 nights was a little, we almost went 4. I'm glad we got it done in 3 last year. And there are many towns that have never done a second night. Why on earth, they get it done in an
Right.
hour and a half, and it's
And we
just a
always looked at
different
it, if
tradition.
somebody wanted more information, we just always had it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, so I think, on that note, I do think it is worth spending some time thinking about how these articles could be consolidated for the purpose of brevity and simplification. One way that I've frequently seen it done is capital items that are routine in nature, that have gone through the normal capital planning process. They're not dead articles. They're not anticipated to be uniquely controversial. Just combine them into one item.
Yep.
The Financial Planning Committee goes through this long process of capital planning, and these are just the items that have bubbled up for this year.
Yep, and
We've known about them for 5 years, and this is their turn. So, have one article for capital items.
Right.
And just has, sort of all that stuff in there, non-debt service, nothing unique or special about it.
Right.
If there's a debt item, if there's something that your office anticipates there will be a lot of extra discussion on, separate that out.
Yeah,
Makes some sense, and that way, hopefully we can just have one quick presentation, here are these 7 things, this truck and that car, and this repair project, and this HVAC thing, or whatever they are, and people can look at them and ask the questions, of course.
Right,
And
right.
there is an opportunity to amend if you want to, if the body wants to deal with things in a different way.
right. Like, for instance, we used to say, okay, here is the total.
Yeah.
You can see from last year, it increased by $2 million. That's because of a tower truck we're purchasing, so,
Yeah.
explain anything that's
But again,
abnormal.
everything gets broken down
Yeah.
in detail, so it's not,
Right.
the vote is allocating $2 million for 17, and it wouldn't be 7, like say 7 capital items. I'm making up that number.
Yeah,
But it would be broken down, and each one has that specific allocation
right.
there, so it's the same financial controls that we've always had, but hopefully a simpler vote process.
Right.
I can see some justification for maybe combining some of the Community Preservation Act items, and I could see an argument against that also. But the capital items are, they take a lot of time, and a lot of that is kind of boilerplate of the motion and the second and the presentation.
Right.
And sometimes little to no discussion and then the vote, so if we can collapse those together, that helps. And something else that we've discussed off and on for 3 or 4 years is maybe not having the zoning articles at the annual town meeting and having those in the fall. And I'm not Planning Board has been working hard on getting
Oh,
them ready
yeah.
for this town meeting. I'm not suggesting we change that for this year, but think about maybe having a non-binding article on the warrant that says, hey, would town meeting like to have a special town meeting every fall and have that, its focused be zoning articles? And that way, starting this fall, we would have a special town meeting. We'd figure out when that would be. I'm not suggesting, I don't think we should put it in a bylaw yet, because the fall is a complicated time with holidays and things like that, but October or November, and then the planning board could start to work on zoning articles for the fall, and that would be their time. It doesn't prohibit financial articles from happening at the fall special town meeting, and it doesn't prohibit zoning articles from happening at the annual town meeting in April, but it would then become, the focus would be, annual town meeting would be financial items, and fall town meeting would be bylaw zoning items.
If we always had enough, if it justified the expense of holding a whole meeting, but.
There is,
yeah.
I mean, we have, looks like there are 11 zoning-related items on this warrant. That's pretty common,
Okay,
yeah. So I think there is probably usually justification, and in those, people spend a lot of time on those. Those are important, so.
And
yeah.
if we could do a vote and get the community's feedback
Yeah,
and then decide? I mean, I just feel like there's so much commentary when the meetings go so late.
Yeah,
There's a way
and
that
I
we can-
think, yeah, you're right.
But, and then we also share there's a cost associated with that. So do you want to shoulder the additional expense to have 2 nights, or do you want to figure out a way to?
I mean, we might see a lot of relief from collapsing all the capital items and maybe CPC. It might alleviate a lot of,
Yeah, it would help with some. And town meeting may not want to get into the practice of having a fall
Right.
special town meeting.
I mean, I like the idea of saving money too, but
right,
So on the saving money
Right.
side, I would like us to consider adding an article for this annual town meeting to either remove or change the bylaw that requires us to do postal mailings for special town meetings. So in our bylaws, for special town meetings, the town clerk has to do a mailing to every residence in town. And we did that at the October special town meeting. I'm not sure how much that cost, but it was probably a few $1,000s, plus some serious amount of time to coordinate that. That was probably added in, long before email, long before, when that was the best way of notifying residents. We have a great email system, and a great way of getting information out there. I don't know if sending a postcard to all residences is the best way.
yeah, I just,
Yeah.
legality-wise, I just want to check into it, but.
There's no legal
As long as we have
requirement
it
for it.
posted in 2
Yeah.
public places and, okay.
Yeah, there's no state legal reason that we have to do that.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I think people need to get information from any way they can.
Yeah. So we don't do that for the annual town meeting.
Right, but for something like a special town meeting, I think it's still a good
Yeah.
policy to have in place. I also kind of worry about combining all of these capital improvement articles. I mean, I'd
Well, I would-
rather see,
Yeah, I would not want to combine all. The idea is to combine routine non-debt items that are not expected to be controversial. So we have,
Like the typical
24.
ambulance replacements
Yeah.
or, okay.
Yeah, so maybe you combine them by department, or, different ways of doing it.
yeah, I was thinking about department, but, the vehicle purchases always bring up some conversation, and that's why I'm
And that's
concerned
okay,
about
yeah, that's okay.
just lumping it all together.
I share that. I know. I understand. I understand that as well.
Do we want to seek feedback from appropriations and financial planning and community preservation and some of those other committees on pros and cons, what their thoughts are on combining articles?
Yeah, sure.
I think that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, they're coming in, when is that?
I don't have those dates in front of me.
Oh,
but
coming
our
in here?
joint-
Oh, our
joint
joint one,
meeting?
our-
Is that
Yeah, that's a couple weeks before town meeting.
Yeah.
So
earlier.
Okay,
my suggestion is do that soon. I mean, they're meeting very frequently right now.
yes,
Is
tomorrow.
have them talk about it in advance of our next meeting,
Okay, yep,
so that if the feedback in our discussion justifies combining some articles on the warrant, we have that feedback.
okay, I'll ask.
And if they, and if,
That we,
I don't know, like, we're gonna
what-
ask them,
what do you
hey, what do you
think
think
about-
about combining some articles?
Yeah.
And they hopefully will give us some guidance. They may hate the idea.
Yeah.
They may love the idea within certain parameters, and they
Right.
may have some experience from working, from other towns as to how other towns do it. And they could provide some recommendations, and then maybe at our next meeting, we can then talk about combining for simplicity, or we can decide we don't want to combine them. It's our warrant.
Yeah.
So we are the body that makes those decisions.
And I feel fortunate because we're going to go through this a lot and several times, so we'll know it inside and out, but the residents may
Yep.
only see it on that one night, and
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so any article that has multiple items within it would still list those
Yes,
items.
correct, correct.
So it's a matter of having fewer motions and fewer presentations and fewer votes for the exact same
Yep.
detail where we want to combine. And at the end, if we don't want to combine anything, we don't combine anything. But it's up to us,
Here for the
up to
long
us.
haul.
Yes, yep.
Nope, that sounds good. I
Yeah,
appreciate
it's just,
talking through this.
because I get the same feedback that you do, we all do, about, you know, what can we do to make town meeting move faster?
Right. Yeah.
Yet I have to say,
Yeah.
people came the second, a lot of people came the second night.
Yeah.
It, you know, it decreased by the third, but people came.
Yeah.
and,
We didn't worry about a quorum
Yeah.
Right,
for any of those nights, which
Right.
was great.
yeah, third night, I think we worried a little bit, but not too much. Yeah, it worked out fine. We ended up over 200 the third night.
That was a long couple
That was a
of
long
days.
one, yeah. So those are, I think, just some thoughts. Do we, maybe on the postcard item, do we want to get some feedback from Andy? And get his thoughts
Yeah.
on that, and then we can, again, it's our decision whether we want to present it to town meeting.
Okay.
And, you know,
I mean, how often do we have a special town meeting? And when we do, it's something really important.
so, so what we're, so any town meeting that is not the annual town meeting is a special.
Right.
So if we made the decision that, you know, hey, we want to ask town meeting, hey, do you want to have the zoning articles in the fall? That's a fall town meeting that will always occur.
Right, yeah.
Do we need to do a postcard for that? Do we want to spend what's, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000, I'm guessing, to do a postcard for that meeting?
But if we establish that that's gonna be our normal routine, that we always have a spring and a fall.
We would need to still deal with the bylaw, which, because
Oh.
yeah, legally, any town meeting that is not the annual is considered a special. That's all there is, that's the only two kind of town meetings there are, annual and special,
Annual, in,
and special. So, and our bylaw says, if you have a special, you gotta send a postcard.
or do we change the bylaw and say we annually have 2 meetings?
We can, absolutely, yeah, so we can, there are towns that have in their bylaws that define town meeting, they will say, and there will be an annual and a special town meeting to be held on the, you know, 4th Monday of October, I'm gonna make that up. And then the bylaw that talks about the postcards could say any special meeting other than those referenced in Article such and such, we require a postcard.
Oh, okay.
And we can always send a postcard anyway. There's nothing prohibiting us from doing that. I think it is a little weird that we send it for the specials but not the annual, when the annual is the most important.
know.
I think the logic behind that is the date of the annual is set in our bylaws, so everybody knows when it is. And I put that in, you know, air quotes, because not everybody really knows when it is, but the bylaw says when it is, where a special can happen at any time.
Yeah.
I think we should send a postcard that just says, "Have a great day."
That we should definitely do.
And come to town meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
And have a great day.
We should have community affairs committee send those postcards.
God.
They'd be lovely, yes.
Speaking of letting people know, how are we advertising this? Because we don't have a sign in town anymore, right? That electronic sign with the Lions Club?
So DPW has some signs.
Yeah,
they've been
but
using.
are you talking about how we advertising the town meeting?
Yes, because it's always been a question, when do we put up those signs? And
Okay.
I'm always of the notion that we should put it up at least 3 weeks beforehand, and
Yeah.
other people think, and I, you know, would appreciate that
Oh, we're gonna
conversation.
put it everywhere, cable, website, the signs, the newspaper, yeah. Does this town do a, code?
A robocall?
Yeah,
The last couple of years we have.
okay. Yep,
And most people like it. Some people yell at me for getting on their phone. But
Well,
we'll deal
you
with
know,
that.
there's-
Yeah,
But it's the greater good, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with Julianne, the sooner we can get the message out, save the date, would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
actually, now that we've got the Northborough Facebook page, maybe we can create an event there now so that people can start,
yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
RSVPing to it. Should it be 3 days? RSVP for 3 days.
yeah, right.
no.
No, don't even bring that up.
I'm sorry.
But this is, I mean, in terms of number of articles, this is a long,
It's another
it's a long
very
warrant.
big one.
Yeah.
It's only a couple less than we had
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
Granted, we did have some like pretty heated discussions
Oh,
on some
okay.
topics
Oh,
last
yeah,
year.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, 57 articles can go quick or can go very, very
Yeah.
long, depending upon
57, wow.
specifics, yeah. Yeah, we were, I think, 60.
I think
I think it was 62. But yeah, in
Yeah,
that,
something like that last year. So, back to the articles, I know one of the articles that we will have to hear a lot more about is the Blake Street
Yeah.
work. We're gonna be hearing about that Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, yep, at the library.
And that's, I think they've already presented to financial
They
planning.
did,
Yeah.
yep.
So we'll hear about, more about that one. Are there any articles that the board wants to carve out time to hear specifically about? I mean, we'll get more general details, and certainly we'll have the joint public hearing with appropriations.
And I think in the past, we've also invited for the CPA articles.
Yep.
And the zoning articles, typically we have, I think, John Campbell come in, with Laurie maybe.
Yeah, he came in,
He does it to the
both.
finance boards, but he's come to the board,
Yeah.
the select board in the past.
Right.
And then either Laurie or the planning board chair will come in and go over the zoning.
yep.
Forget what, February-ish, maybe March, no, March.
March, somewhere, yeah.
Like almost done with that
Almost done
month.
with it, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep.
But
we've got
those
a
are
lo-
helpful,
We have a
yeah.
lot of work to do before
Yes.
the end of April,
Yeah, a lot.
okay?
Can we ask questions about these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, Article 22, Drainage Sidewalk Improvement Program. Do you know how much money and any specifics about that?
No. No, I don't have the number, unless I have it in my, oh, I do in my office.
For our next meeting, I assume until town meeting, we'll get this every
Yes.
meeting. For our next meeting, can we have a little bit more detail?
Yeah,
on here? Great.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I know, I don't want to misspeak.
Well,
and-
the reason I ask is, there's always something like this on the warrant. And usually the money gets used up for repairs, and then we have no money for new sidewalks. And I recall that the board was very supportive of getting that Peaslee Street sidewalk done. And I'm just wondering what the plan is for that.
Okay, for
Not
Peaslee,
Peaslee,
Maple Street.
Maple
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah, connecting Peaslee to,
So Maple Street,
has Peaslee School on it, and it
Yep,
connects
yep,
to the
yep.
high school.
okay.
And when we were,
And then the ARPA,
We funded design for
Yeah.
Maple Street from ARPA.
that's right, okay, so that was the.
but there are those grants, complete streets and all that kind of thing. But, I just want to make sure that we've got steps lined up to get that done.
Yeah. Okay,
And I just have one more question.
yeah, go ahead.
About Article 14. So, that's, the way it's written now, it is specifically for the SAFER, the SAFER grant,
Right,
people who were hired under that. But it's gonna be $1 million, and I wonder, my thought is that, do we have to say specifically for that? Because
Yes.
what if police need, or DPW needs?
well, it was because it will be unfunded after 5 years. 3 years, so basically, it's a special account that they're going to be putting savings into, so when we get to that point, we're not like, oh no, we have to terminate these people.
I understand, but it just seems like, we don't know what we're gonna face in 2 years.
No.
And if we do need more police or, another department, I would hate to say, have that money sitting there and say, it's, that
So
we
you-
wouldn't be able to use it if our priorities change.
I mean, I'm sure it would just be a revote and to put it back into the general fund,
A
but,
revote by town meeting?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, so town meeting can create special stabilization accounts for specific purposes, and the purpose needs to be labeled. Town meeting, and only town meeting can put money in, and town meeting and only town meeting can take money out. So this is a way of saying, we know in 3 more years, we're going to have $1 million or so of annual operating budget requirement that we don't have. So Jason recommended, and this board thought it was at least a pretty good idea, to go ahead and, as a way of preparing for that, start to put some money into a stabilization fund for that purpose. And then in that first year, or maybe, I think it's actually the first 2 years that we'd be funding it, pull money out and draw it down to zero as a way of evening out the financial burden.
I understand all of that. I'm concerned that we're pigeonholing ourselves into.
Well, because we don't have another budget item that's like that, where we can say, this is going to cost exactly X more in 3 years.
And you need a specific purpose for setting up this specialized account, so we can't say, it's an account just for savings, just in case we need more police officers, or it has to be specific. But that's why you could go back to town meeting and say, hey, we didn't need this much money because we ended up taking away 2 positions that we didn't think were necessary, so we need a vote to put this money back into the general fund. So we're not stuck.
Yeah,
is
town
what I'm saying.
meeting can change the purpose of that stabilization fund at a later time.
Yeah.
And if we don't need all of those funds for that purpose, then, as Stephanie said, town meeting can vote to reallocate that. It would probably, by default, get reallocated to the standard stabilization fund, which can be used for any purpose. And you always have the regular stabilization fund to draw upon if we needed it. Generally, you don't want to pull money from
There's a
that.
mechanism for changing it if we don't need it
Yes.
specifically for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
It might be good to give Jason a heads up that,
Yeah.
he's certainly going to be coming before us a few times before a town meeting. At one of them, have him walk us through again
The account
the
setup,
rationale
okay.
for that and the process for what happens if at some point we change our mind as far as how we're going to use those funds.
Right, yeah, okay.
That answer your question?
thank you.
Okay, great. Did anyone else have any, Lisa?
Yes, I have to agree with Julianne on the specifics as well, because we're gonna be hitting a levy limit, and we're gonna get into Proposition 2.5, and that's not a pretend, that's an actuality. So I think we have to be much more careful this year. I know I've been at the Appropriations Committee and the Finance Committee when that's been talked about, that this year, it's going to be hard not to be at our levy limit. It's going to be hard not to then have a Proposition 2.5 override. And we have to start preparing for that, where in the past, it's been, we can massage the numbers, we can do what we'd like to do. We're not going to have that freedom just because of what's gone on with the amount of money that we've put aside already for the fire station. So we are not going to have that kind of freedom to say, well, we can just put this 400,000 over here. And I think it's something we've thought about and talked about. So it's something that would be lovely, but when you get to the need and the want, is this a need or a want?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be a tough year, and I think that's what the financial planning and appropriations right now are trying to whittle through. We got bad news back from insurance, and it's even higher than we expected. Everybody, all of the surrounding towns are seeing high teens. We expected 10%, so we're working diligently to do what we can to try to reduce that number. But yeah, Lisa's right. It's not an easy year. Inflation has hit us, and we are not in a favorable position.
As far as, overall levy limit and things like that, we'll know once we get some final budget figures in. We
Yes.
don't have any of that yet.
No.
We know that we're heading towards what is probably a more difficult time and a more challenging time. We know this board and/or town meeting may need to make some difficult decisions, either this year or certainly in years to come. So we've got to prepare for that. I trust Jason's recommendation when it comes to stabilization accounts and use of money, and certainly adherence to policies that this board has passed in the past.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see a great connection with that with the special stabilization fund, but we've got to think about, and just for the purpose of planning, how is that going to start impacting things in a few years?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to become more clear and, as it rolls out.
Yep. Yeah. Did anyone have any specific articles they wanted to call out? Again, we'll be reviewing it. Lisa, yes.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Sure.
First off, one of the things I've noticed is there's $820,000 for 4 trucks. That seems to me to be an awful lot of money for vehicles, just for the DPW. I'm wondering why we only have the town office HVAC supplemental at $500,000, when there's things that have to be done for each one of our municipal buildings, and there's nothing in here for anything in a cleaning. We've talked about cleaning them, upgrades or whatever. We're putting a lot of money into vehicles, and we're not doing anything for the buildings. So I think we really need to consider that there should be something set aside so that each one of the buildings has a major cleaning once a year. And we should set that in motion, because it's gone on so long that it hasn't been done.
Cleaning would usually be in the operating budget rather than,
And then when the HVAC things are done for the town offices, they can't be, well, there shouldn't be the mini splits that are hanging out the windows, because that's an antique building, and I think there was some things in provision that you're not supposed to be changing the outside of the building. So I'm not sure if that HVAC is for going back to the way it used to be, or to put mini splits all the way down the buildings.
The mini splits would be inside on the wall, so on the inside of the building. So, and that's what they're figuring out right now, because there's the big HVAC systems on the roof, and I believe 2 are failing out of the 3. 1 is gone. So that's what they're trying to look at now financially, what is the most reasonable. If we did the mini splits on the interior, but it would be through each room. So they're trying to weigh out the cost of what makes more sense.
But the mini splits have a condenser that hang on the outside. You've already got 3 on the east side of the building.
On the roof. Are you talking about the town hall?
Yeah, the offices.
Yeah, so it's on the roof. There's 3 big ones on the roof.
all right,
Those are the ones that used to be there, but the mini splits, condensers, unless you can move them off the side of the building and up to the roof. Right now, you have 3 on the outside. You have 1 for the your rec room or your lunch room, and you have 1 or 2 for the computer room.
well, we don't have the DPW here with us tonight, and this is a level of detail we're sort of planning to see where we want the detail. Why don't we plan to invite Scott or Sean in
Yeah,
to
okay, I'll write
walk-
that
to
down.
walk through
HVAC.
this article once some of those decisions are being
And I'd
made?
like to be able to have at least something for cleaning, for the police station, for the town offices. At
You-
least those 2 buildings.
Usually that goes in an operating budget
Operating.
rather than a capital item.
But it hasn't been
Yeah.
in the operation.
Yeah, no, I agree. Usually that goes in the operating budget rather than an article.
Yeah, and I know
Rather
for a
than a
fact,
capital
like the
article.
senior center now, yes, that was built into, I think, facilities
Yep.
operating.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know the library has weekly cleanings, and that's just it used to be the library budget. I think it's now in Sean's building facilities budget. So really the question is, are we funding that line item sufficiently to clean
Right.
all the municipal buildings the way that they should?
Are we?
Yeah, right, and I don't know.
Has that been started then?
I'm sorry, Lisa? What was that?
Has that been started?
I have no idea.
Yes, it definitely has. Yep.
Right, so that's also a question that we can ask the DPW. I wouldn't expect an article for cleaning.
No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that because the only thing that's on here right now looks like the HVAC. That we talked about it, but I didn't see any line items anywhere else that talked even about the budget item for the municipal buildings.
Yeah, yeah, so that would be part of the town budget, Article 6. Is
Right.
where
Then the,
operating cleaning would be.
Article number. Article number 46, leasing of town-owned building Whitecrest. I'm concerned that we never brought a focus group together to come up with some options, and that we're jumping into leasing already. We haven't discussed it. Are we gonna have a discussion on the length of time of lease, what the lease is going to be, why we're going for leasing and not giving them a couple of options?
Yeah, I mean, it would all have to go out to for an RFP anyway, so all of that language would be developed in the RFP, yep.
But Lisa, are you asking that you want that article to be more specific? You know, more definition for the terms of the lease and how long? Is that what?
Well, I mean, leasing alone, it's on its own, it says leasing town-owned building, and it talks of that being the only option. I don't know why the RFP gives, we talked about this with CPC earlier, and you had talked about it at one of the other meetings about putting a focus group together on what options could be put together for the town to make a decision on. This looks like it bypassed any options and went just directly to leasing.
Yeah, there's been, like, at the CPC, we were discussing how being in a lot of the newspapers and, you know, from around the world, we have a lot of interest, and it's specific to leasing. So that's why we want to push out an RFP, and it would be for the purpose of leasing, whether or not we determine the amount of, I'm not sure how town council would want the warrant article written, if it had to be exact amount of years for leasing or whatnot, or if they wanted it vague because the RFP didn't go out or anything yet. So I guess I'd have to ask legal counsel how specific and detailed they want the article language.
But this is also in the event that we need permission to lease the building.
Of course, that's why it has to be an
Somebody
article.
Came and gave us $50 million and said, here, town, you do whatever you want, that wouldn't negate that we still have this option to lease, right?
Yeah, but you need permission from
Right.
the
yeah,
residents
yeah.
in order
So this
to,
is kind of like a backup.
Yeah.
but it's, the reason why we have to do it now is because
Yeah,
town meeting only comes once a year, and yeah.
I would anticipate that if we get to the end of April and we're presenting this article, we would be expected to offer more details than we can offer tonight
Yeah, hopefully,
on that.
right, yeah.
So
absolutely.
this is a good placeholder for now.
Right, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it is
Yep.
meant for.
Yep. And I want to interrupt for a second. Mike Tejan has joined us. Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, we hear you. So fantastic. You'll need to do that to satisfy the open meeting law. We are in the process of discussing the articles in the draft warrant that we have before us. We're almost, I think, concluded with that item. Lisa, did that conclude your questions?
I think it will. I just wanted to make a statement of the many articles that went out, we were told it was supposed to be confidential, and the next day it appeared in the newspaper. And now it's gone out in a few newspapers, not really making us look like we know what we're doing. There's a lot of 8 years of doing nothing, and it's the same article regurgitated in these 4 papers. And I don't think it really makes us look like we got our heads on straight.
I'm not sure I understand the comment.
That's
Yeah.
a personal opinion.
About the White Cliffs articles.
Yeah, being confidential, I don't think there was
There's
anything.
no confidentiality.
yeah.
It's just whether or not the townspeople would vote to enter into a lease. We have a lot of positive generated discussion from it being in the paper, and that's not private at all. This is what we wanted. We wanted attention to be brought to the White Cliffs, and we're fortunate enough that it has stirred up some interest, which is why the interest was more so in leasing and not owning. So that's the RFP that we would love to put out. But in order to do that, we need the town to vote that they would allow for the leasing of such building. But, yeah, we don't want to miss an opportunity because, believe me, we have not gotten anywhere, and the building is only becoming more and more deplorable. And it's a beautiful, beautiful historic icon that we just don't want to lose.
So I anticipate there will be more discussions about White Cliffs in the near future. At least I hope, I sure hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but I think there's a good chance there will be.
Forgive it.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, we've already sort of given a quick, rough review of the town meeting articles. We will see them probably every meeting before a town meeting with additional detail each time. Are there any articles that you wanted to make mention of or ask some questions of, or that you, at this point, specifically wanted to have somebody provide some additional detail later?
No, not at this time. I mean, I joined the meeting late and I don't want to rehash things. So if I have questions, I can always pass them through to Stephanie going forward after the meeting. So
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Are there any articles, other than what we've discussed, just the postcard article, that anyone thinks should be considered to be added to the warrant that isn't already on the list?
I don't think it was the postcard article, but the special town meeting article.
This,
right?
yeah, also the special town meeting
Yeah.
article of.
Oh,
of-
and then
yeah,
doing a mailer, okay.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
nothing right now, thank you.
Okay, okay. Anything, Mike or Lisa? Okay. Yeah, I think the important one from my perspective was the realigning of the bylaw so that the finance director is the
Yes.
person that we're in contact with. We knew we would do that when we split those positions back several months ago.
That's right,
So I'm
yeah.
glad that that's on the list.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it's already there.
When
Okay.
is the last day that people can submit an article?
On March.
Well, March 10th is when you,
Close?
and we send it to town council for review and feedback. Yep.
So if something came in on March 9th from a resident or a committee,
We could consider adding it.
Okay.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
we close it,
Until-
then you can't, you can modify details
Right.
within articles,
Yeah.
but you can't add anything new unless we go through the process of reopening, adding, and closing again, which is complicated. Okay, is everyone okay with their review of a first pass of the town meeting warrant? Thank you very much, Steph and Di, and everybody else. I know a lot of people work on this, so thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yes, thank
All
you.
of you. For doing that, next up, we have creation of a municipal building reuse committee for properties located at 4 West Main Street and 11 Pierce Street, and that's the quote-unquote Old Town Hall and the quote-unquote current fire station, as opposed to the old fire station, which doesn't even exist any longer, which is a good thing. So we had talked, I think it was at a December meeting briefly, about forming a committee like this, and there seemed to be support for it. The general timing of this is that we know, well, obviously we have 4 West Main Street that we've now owned for a year or so. We now, maybe even 2 years, almost 2 years. But the current fire station will become vacant in about a year and a half-ish. once we're moved into the new station. And my hope is that we don't sit on that building empty for a while and wonder what to do. So my idea in bringing this forward back a couple of months ago was, let's form a committee to look through different ideas specifically for that building, so that by the time the fire station moves out, everybody knows what's happening with it.
Okay.
And that's wide open for any purpose at all. And as I've said so in the past, I actually live pretty close to that building across on the other side of a pond. I will not be part of the detailed discussions of that process. I'll be recusing myself from that, but, you know, we can certainly have a vote tonight on creating that. In that discussion, we had the idea of, gee, you know, for West Main Street, the old town hall is right at the other end of Lake Street. It's also an empty, mostly empty, town-owned building. Should that be part of the same committee's job? And I think there was general consensus that it would be a good idea to include both buildings within the response, because we want to find a purpose of that too. And those purposes of those two buildings could be related, or they could be completely different. They are different buildings with different everything. But I think, you know, in advance of town meeting, when we will probably be asked, hey, what are you doing with this building? What are you doing with that building? We should make a decision that we're going to create a committee to start to look with that, involve the appropriate town staff, certainly involve MPIC, and anybody else. So, you know, I think the timing is right to go ahead and do that now. Vote that we're going to create this committee, and then in coming meetings, you know, figure out additional details for that. So you know, we can figure out the charge when we appoint people. We don't have to decide tonight we want 5 people, 7 people, 9 people, or anything like that. But I think it's a good idea for us to move forward.
I agree.
Yeah.
Could you refresh my memory when this happened in December when we talked about it?
I don't remember off the top of my head which meeting. I believe it was one of the 2 December meetings.
I don't think we voted.
We did not vote.
Discuss having a committee?
Yes, correct.
I don't remember that.
Yep.
And I don't think this is the greatest idea. I think we know that, you know, both buildings need to be taken care of, and I'm pretty sure 11 Pierce is pretty much the easiest one to be able to put up for sale, and I do know that there's some people who are already interested in purchasing it. And 4 West Main is still, what's the decision on 4 West Main? Is it gonna be town offices? Is it gonna be rental? Is it gonna be leased? I mean, there's.
These are things that need to get figured out, and having a committee to do that.
Charge is a bad idea. You should do it, you know, if you're gonna do it closer to the time when after town meeting, if that's when you're gonna get the information. But to have a no charge, no interest, you know, there's no direction with it other than, well, we gotta do something. I think that's not the right way to handle it.
The only thing I know for state funding is that we would have to make it either a housing, a commercial, or both in order to get funding. Like, if the town went over there, they couldn't help us because there's no funding for that. It's to generate and stimulate, you know, economic development and support the housing needs, which isn't a bad idea for a mixed use, but I don't know if that's what you were referring to, Lisa, like a more, you know.
I think we need to figure this stuff
Yeah.
out.
Yes.
And it goes beyond what we can do at a regular board meeting.
Yeah.
That's why I think it is appropriate to
What?
form a committee to do that.
Personally, I think we should put it on to town meeting floor to ask them what they wanna do with 4 West Main Street.
But I
Ask
don't,
the town, do you want it, what do you wanna do? Do you wanna just sell it? Do you wanna lease it? Do you wanna make it town offices?
but we need to present specific projects with specific dollar amounts to be able to do that.
And we need to present a lot of information so people make you know, an informed decision. You know what I mean? Like if you did this, if the town sold it, this is the scenario. If it's town hall, this is the scenario, but Mike had his hand up too.
Yeah, Mike, did you have something you wanted to chime in on here?
I always do.
Yes,
But,
good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my thought is, broadly, in favor of doing something where, we get to a path for reuse of these buildings. I think, a committee to do that is probably a good idea, right? To use their time, to go through all those options and to figure this out. The one thing I would be hesitant about is sort of, right, spending more money on consultants to maybe tell us what we already know, especially on 4 West Main, where there was a lot of money spent, relatively, right, for the town hall feasibility committee, to come up with an answer that kind of we can't really implement. And we got a lot of data, market data, reuse data for 4 West Main already from that. So that would be my only, I know we're kind of in a preliminary stage of talking about it, but that would be sort of my question, is like, sort of what type of budget would this committee have, and what would be looking for them to spend money on, if any, in their task?
I think it's a reasonable question. I know that the town office's feasibility study committee did some very detailed work at both of these buildings. So we have some good data on what they might be useful for and the square footage and everything else. It's probably not a bad idea for this committee to have some kind of budget, but it might be something that's already available in the town's operating budget, as opposed to, say, appropriating something new at town meeting for that purpose. I think that would be something that I would, ask you to take a look at, maybe talk to Scott and see, all right, what are some options? And then we don't have to fund it with any money, or we can fund it with some money.
Well, we already put $100,000 into the town offices, and we didn't really come up with a great plan, because if you're waiting for 10 years for it.
But the information, the information that was gathered during that process, I think would be very useful for this committee, because there's a lot of information on there about both of those buildings.
And the reason to have a committee as opposed to just doing an RFP, right? Where an RFP is just gonna get us sort of maybe a market solution, where a committee maybe would take a broader look at it, right? Is there a town use for these buildings, or a hybrid town use, commercial use, right? That would be sort of right, part of the argument to go the committee route rather than just doing RFPs.
Right, and they may surface some specific ideas that might be worthwhile to put into an RFP. So there are, I could see this going a lot of avenues, and as I said, they could be similar with both buildings or very, very different.
So I think a committee is a reasonable idea, but I hesitate to vote just to do a committee without the details. And my suggestion would be that we all take time to think about our ideal committee, what qualifications people would ideally have to be on the committee, and specifically their charge, before we just vote to say, well, let's have a committee, and then we'll decide the details later. Those are major details, and my experience tells me that unless those are very worked out in the beginning, you might not get the answers you want.
Yeah, so we would need to create the charge before or simultaneous with appointing people. If we wanted to wait and iron out the charge before we even vote to implement the committee, we can do that.
Yeah.
But that'll
that
take a
would
little
be
bit of
my
time to do.
preference, I think.
Okay.
But I'd like to hear from,
I agree with Julianne. I don't like this idea of ironing it out later. We did that with traffic safety. I don't think that you should be doing it without the detail, and I think that's important in putting a committee together to understand what it is that you're going to actually do with it.
even things as we think about it over the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks of, who are the people who, or the person who will decide who's on the committee. We can say we want, 9 people, but in the end, who's going to do the interviewing and appoint the people? Is that the town administrator, or is that?
So I think,
I think it is in my purview to
yeah,
set up.
so town administrator by charter is responsible for building projects. The question is this a building project or not? I'd have to read the language, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Because this isn't involving construction, it's more planning. Ultimately, we should follow whatever, we could figure that out. But we could certainly put requirements on there as far as, I mean, for example, I think it's a very good idea to have at least one MPIC person on there because they're very knowledgeable about Blake Street. And that's there. It would, should certainly have a select board member on there and, and some number of additional people. And it would be ideal if there were some people that had some maybe commercial real estate experience. Might be a good idea. But if it falls under the charter that you appoint, then we go through that process where you appoint and we confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we could come up with the parties together
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. So if that's the consensus, I have no problem. I could work with Stephanie on a draft charge and that would come back to, a meeting in the near future. I do think it's important to have not necessarily the committee filled out, but at least the committee created before town meeting to send that message that we are actively working on determining future use of these two buildings.
Yeah.
So we have some time then before town meeting to come back to this and not vote on it tonight.
Yep, no, I'm fine. That's the committee's wish. We're
Yep.
moving forward like that, okay. All right, is everyone okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Town administrator review process. So at a recent meeting, we approved goals for Stephanie. Stephanie's contract says that we have to do an annual review every year by the end of April. So we have to determine how that review will take place, how we score that and everything else. Stephanie and I had some good discussion on that. There is, ICMA is the International City Managers Association. They have a standard review form, although it says city all over it. It's really applicable to towns. Plenty of towns use this exact format. So I think it's a good idea to just use that verbatim, and that way we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of creating something ourselves. This is also this board's first time doing a review of a town administrator. I think it's a good idea. We'll go through this. Maybe there is something that we want to change in future years, and we can do that. That's ultimately, we can change this year to year. The important part is that we have to agree with the town administrator. We have to be on the same page in advance.
Yep.
I've seen reviews fall apart where something changes and the town administrator and the board are not on the same page with the review, and then how can you do that fairly?
Yep.
So it is important to have this set in advance, and what she and I agreed on is basically a 1 to 5 rating on the review that's in here, a 1 to 5 rating on the goals, and you average everything together, and then you average everything from everybody together, and then you have the review. This year, there's no financial impact on your salary because that was pre-negotiated, but for future years, there is. So the amount of raise that Stephanie would get year to year is going to be based on this. So that math isn't in this year's, but if this works, then we can just tweak and figure out how the percentages will work for future years. So I just want to make sure everyone is okay with that. This is the normal process, that individual members don't read their review individually. It's a board review. This is exactly what school committees do, exactly what select boards do, is it goes to the chair and the vice chair work together to consolidate everything into one board review. We then have that board review discussion, and then it's a good idea for you to sit down individually with board members
Yep,
to
that's fine.
go through that detail also. But that way, we have that board review. The contract says by the end of April, that our last meeting in April happens to be town meeting, that normally 5-minute meeting that we have beforehand. I don't anticipate we would have time for a discussion about it, but if we follow this format, it's a mathematical exercise as far as the numbers go. and we can vote on the number at that quick meeting, and then at the next meeting, a couple weeks later, then we can have the review. In open meeting law, it's uncomfortable, but it requires town administrator reviews to be conducted in public, and the board summary review is a public document. The individual reviews are not. And that's kind of the weird go-around of how this stuff works. I want to make sure, first of all, that you are in agreement with what I've said and what's in this memo.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
okay, great. Any,
I like this format of,
Yeah.
it's very, I like the rubric of it.
Yeah.
I like the rating scale, it's very clear.
Yeah, it is.
I appreciate that you'll have the opportunity to sit with each of us and just, talk through it to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yep.
any questions?
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
okay, good. Okay,
Okay, so I have specific questions. On
Okay.
page 3, number four and the fourth one down. I don't think you've had time to do that. I mean, you, in the few months that you've been here, Stephanie, reviews.
Well, I mean, and Mitch and I discussed this, if there's something, I mean, we could hold that question non-applicable at this time or whatnot, but,
But then how does the math work? If I write not applicable on, say, 1 or 2 or 3 things, then how does the math work? It could bring,
so you're talking about like the policy execution
Yeah.
section?
yeah.
I think,
well, I mean, there's many parts of that.
yeah,
Supports the actions of the government.
I think we all know and appreciate that Stephanie will, at this point, will have been with us for a little less than 6 months when we do this review, so there's not an expectation that she will have done a full year's worth of this, so.
Okay,
we
so,
were reviewing it in
so
the time.
every single one of these have 5 subdivisions, kind of, right? Sub-questions.
Yeah,
If I write not applicable on 1, okay, but I filled out 4, can the math be done that it's divided?
Okay, I thought you meant per section, like we could say 4 isn't applicable, but I know what you mean. So there's certain areas that you could vote on.
so, for example, policy execution, the first item, implements governing body actions in accordance with the intent of the council, the select board. If you determine that that was not applicable, and I'm just using that as an example, then it would be 4 out of 5 would count towards the 5.
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
okay,
Wait, so, all right, so let's go to the one that I specifically thought I would write not applicable on number 4, that's page 3, the
Yep.
4th bullet point there.
Reviews,
Reviews, ordinance, and policy. I would have to say not applicable because I don't know that you've had time to do that or what has been done. So then, if it's divided by 5, that would bring the score down, and that's not fair. I
Right.
think if there's any not applicable, the math should be done.
Yeah.
Even if I do 2, then it should be divided by 3.
yeah, it should be a 1 to 5 for that section, no matter how. If you sort of abstained from an item,
Yeah,
the policy execution item would still be a range of 1 to 5.
Why could we not go through it and say, like, this is not applicable for this year? Maybe we agree as a board if there are ones that we think are not applicable, and that way it won't weigh down.
Diane just pointed out on the directions, or instructions, I should say, if.
Any item left blank will be
Be a 3.
interpreted as a score of 3.
But I think in this case, I agree with Julianne that it's not applicable, so why not just
So we
put that
could,
one as that?
yeah,
note?
You know,
Easier
I
across the
I
board.
would rather, I think it could take us a long time to go
Okay.
through this. I am perfectly fine saying if any board member sees an item that they don't think is applicable,
Okay,
that we would, instead of this counting it as a 3, it would count as it didn't exist.
yeah, and then
And
how are you
and
gonna
then,
divide?
and then it would be, it would still be 4 items.
Right.
But so it would be, I forget exactly how you do the math, but you'd still get a range of 1 to 5 with that. So if you gave 4 5s and then a blank, it would still be a 5.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
But if you did 4 5s and then not applicable, divided by 5,
Right.
It would be a 4.
Correct, yeah, it would be
All right.
it'd be dividing by 4 yeah, I can't think of how to do the math in my head, but
Yes.
I know what
Yeah.
you're suggesting, and I agree with it.
Okay, good.
I think that each section is a range of 1 to 5, even if something is an NA.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So if we do an NA on 4, for example, it would be 4 divided by 4. Or
Yep,
X
yep.
number divided by 4.
Correct,
Okay,
Yeah.
that works.
yeah.
And then I have another, can I ask my other question? Under supervision, that's page 5, supervision. How do we get that information?
This is a hard one. Anytime a director's board is, some of it is, you can look at information that bubbles up at presentations that come to us. You ask a question, and then Stephanie reports that, I'll pick on Scott just because we were talking about Scott earlier, reports to us, Scott made the decision on X, Y, and Z. And that's encourages department heads to make decisions within their jurisdiction with middle. It's hard to know because our fingers are not in that. And that's gonna be true of essentially any review process here. So it's as best you understand.
I mean, I would have no problem with you talking to Diane because she's the assistant, so I have no problem with that either, so.
So one thing that I do in the corporate environment, you've probably done them too, is we'll do these 360-degree evaluations where people that are my peers will give feedback on me, my boss, people that I work with, and then they'll have this full response. But I think the tricky part is your separation from us when it comes to managing people. But how can we find out if there's things that we can all do better in a way that keeps your position separate from our position, but helps us improve? So I don't know what the answer is.
I think if there was anything negative, you'd probably hear about it.
No,
really?
I'm not even looking for negative.
I don't think
but
people are shy, yeah.
But overall,
But
I'm
yes.
always on, looking for ways to improve.
Right.
You said the same thing, so I
Yeah.
don't know what the right path for that is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, we can think about
Well,
that.
I appreciate that, that you offered that we could talk to Diane and, get some information there and.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem if you reached out to the department heads either. That's fine with me. Honestly, yeah.
Okay, if you're comfortable with that, then
Yeah.
that would be a way that.
If
we
that
can-
would take care of
get
the
some
section,
information.
yeah.
I just want to be honest when I do this. And
I get it, yeah.
I also have to say, so would we go individually to department heads and ask them, or how would that process look?
I think
That
it
would
would
be a lot of
be probably
people.
through the chair, and it would be the same template for everybody,
Okay.
like if,
We could
portion of-
ask department heads to provide some feedback.
That was gonna be my suggestion.
Yeah,
right,
And it could
Okay.
be through me as
Yeah.
a.
yeah,
yes.
Can we
that-
do that?
could
Yeah.
be good.
That's great.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Are you okay
Okay.
with that?
absolutely,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
I like the idea that, I like this evaluation form that we've made, but I prefer to have it made for us before we accept it.
change city to town, change council to select board.
Right words and everything on it.
Yeah, and I think as, the years go on, you can fine tune it to exactly how we work in our town. But, I mean, a lot of these questions are common anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I think we can definitely customize this to make it for us.
Right.
The intent is approve the form, changing city council to select board and
Yep,
things like that. Doesn't change the form or the process.
Right.
That's really what we're after, the questions.
It's just a much more proper way to do it.
Yeah, and I would have done that already, but this was a PDF file, not a Word file. So it takes a little bit of work. I want to make sure people were comfortable with it. I also like the idea of saying someone else did this. And it's been approved by the biggest organization that deals with this ever. I wish they
Right.
had a town version that changed the words, but
yeah,
You know.
yep.
It makes it objective.
yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is good. Next process would be to approve it with a vote. And again, so that we're all clear that this is what we're using, we've agreed on some nuance to the process about how to deal with if any member puts an NA on things, that I don't think has to change the rules as they're laid out here. And, you know, before we actually fill it out, I will make sure that the paperwork is updated to read town where it currently says city.
So I recall where it says, and I'm so sorry if this was already written in here. So when will we complete, I know it's due by April 28th,
Yep.
but when is when are we gonna start reviewing it?
So after, typically it is due a week prior to that meeting. So that meeting is that the 28th?
That's the
April,
town,
April?
yeah, that was the date that it said it would be
Yeah,
due.
yeah. So April, is April 28th town meeting?
Yes.
Yep. So I would say that they would be due to Laura and I by the 21st of April. Then we would.
April vacation.
Which is April vacation week. All right, so we can massage that.
We can do it a little bit
Well,
early.
Yeah.
you know what I was.
Yeah, that's fine.
On my contract,
Yeah,
it said an annual
yeah.
performance evaluation. So
that's this,
would it
yeah.
mean this April, or would it mean,
Yes. So that was a question that I spoke to with council.
okay,
And we can do a review, and we should do a review now.
This
It doesn't have
year.
financial impact, but
Right.
yes, it's, in the contract, it says every year by the end of April.
Right.
So this is a year by the end of April.
yes, yep,
To some extent, it's a meaningless review in that it doesn't have financial impact, because that was, again, that was pre-negotiated, and I think that was a good thing. But this gives all of us the opportunity to do this because it's new.
Yeah,
So we
Yeah.
do it, and then afterwards, the board will talk about it
yeah.
and say, we liked this process, or we liked it, except we want to do this other little thing, we want to get rid of this section, whatever else, and we work with you on that process. And then that also becomes part of the goal-setting process, because the next goals that are going to be set
Yeah.
next May or June are going to be really important, because you would be evaluated based upon those goals and all of this stuff
Yep.
next year, which does have real impact.
yes, yep.
I don't know that I would call it meaningless, I just don't think it has a financial impact.
Right,
But I
right,
think it has
yeah.
greater impact on discussion and understanding.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Meaningless financially.
Can we just move the date up a little bit?
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe
Do
it's due like before the,
do you want to say 2 weeks before?
I would prefer that. If
Okay,
that's-
so-
Is that okay with the rest of the board?
So can you give us a date? What date?
That would be April 14th
Yeah.
would be the due date.
But we're gonna get clean copies of this?
Yep,
Okay.
So when can we get the clean copy of it?
before April 14th.
We can break apart a PDF, right?
Just
Don't
to
we have
accept.
Angie might be able to.
I
We
think-
can,
I think we have the software that we could break.
yeah, we could do that.
So can we do it the next meeting?
No,
and
I
just
think-
Once it's all in right there.
We-
just
we-
do what we have.
Because all we're changing is the terminology of city to town and city council to select board. I think we can
And their
approve this as
rating,
is.
The rating is different, you know,
Yeah.
if there was an NA, because
Yeah.
it says it'll be average if,
Yeah,
yeah, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, I think, you know,
I-
as,
I just-
could we just say as amended? I would just, I worry about pushing and pushing and pushing agenda items off when I think we all understand what this is, as amended. The motion right now sees as presented, you could say as amended.
I don't like doing that. I think if it's really done and easily done, we could do it at our next meeting, and it would have all the information that we need in our town with it all, with the seal and all that on it. And then have a little bit of the definition of what we talked about with, if there's an NA, this is what would happen in each one of these situations, so that would also be on there.
I mean, the bulk of the discussion has happened tonight, so that should go quickly once we get the
Yeah.
clean copy.
Yeah, and our next meeting is gonna be a longer one, because we've got,
Isn't that the
It won't be hard to do
legislature?
it because it'll already be done when we look at it, and
that's fine. If that's what the board would like to do, then that's fine with me.
Yeah, and we can try to get it out ahead of time so you can see it.
Yeah, it should go into the
Right.
packet.
So then once we get it on, so once we approve it on March 10th, could we get a final copy on the 11th so we could start working through it?
Oh,
So we
yeah,
have-
of course, yeah.
I just want to have enough time to go through it.
We could have copies that
Does
night.
that give you enough time?
So we're,
Were we supposed to vote on the municipal building committee? Were you?
I was hoping to do so, but there seemed to be a consensus that we need to develop the charge first.
Okay.
We're all, I thought we left it that we're all supposed to think about our ideal
Okay.
committee, and then we'll
Yeah.
discuss what that charge,
Well,
and the composition of the committee will
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should, at our next meeting, we should have that before us. So my suggestion, if you have particular comments, get them to Stephanie and me, and then we can,
Put something,
we could put that into a charge, a draft charge at our next meeting, so we just vote on it.
So, sorry to go back, and I'm sorry if I missed that.
Yeah.
So in part of the charge, can we say we want the committee to poll the community on options that they want, or do we want to think about what we want for the business?
Solicit
Like
public
what type
feed,
of-
solicit public feedback.
Yeah,
Yes.
you
Okay.
could do
Makes
that
some
either
sense.
through a survey
Okay.
or public forum or.
Yeah, if we just say solicit public feedback,
Okay. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood that.
Mike?
And just to be sure, so do we need a motion right now on the review proposal?
It sounds like we are interested in waiting until the review format gets updated, changing city to town, and clarifying the math to the NA versus accepting it as amended.
All right, but because we're not really making any substantive change, we
Hopefully.
could use what was provided in the packet to start
Yeah.
reviewing and making decisions.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, just make sure we're not like supposed to not do that until it's officially adopted.
Right.
so.
Nope, we're good.
yeah, I think we're all agreed on the format of that review and the math and everything else other than the NA
Yeah.
piece.
I think that's probably the most important one, is
Yeah,
the NA piece.
we'll clarify that
Yeah.
language
Mostly
there.
for the future.
Yeah,
But-
that's fine.
Okay. And as it says in the cover, the goals are encompassed in that also. So the
Yep.
review of the goals, each one is 1 to 5, and that adds up there. Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Yes.
I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have reports. Mike, any reports tonight?
No, I guess I don't have any committee reports to bring back tonight. I know, just a reminder, I mean, I know a lot of the ice is gone and melted, but just as a reminder to make sure our townsfolk know that the salt sand pile in the corner of the DPW highway lot is where you're supposed to go, and not the salt shed to get the salt directly from there, just as a reminder.
Excellent. That conclude your report, Mike?
That concludes.
Okay. Lisa, any reports tonight?
Yeah, I actually want to talk a little bit about the housing authority that I'm the liaison to.
Okay.
Those meetings are not recorded. There's no, and lots of times as a liaison, I have to go watch the meeting to get some information because I may not be able to attend. And I think that it's kind of a standard, isn't it? Aren't all of our committees supposed to have recordings of their meetings?
I would love that to be the standard. It is, we have no board or town policy to that. There have been even subcommittees of this board that have not recorded their meetings. But I think, that's a subject for another day. We could set an agenda item to set a policy that everybody gets recorded. I love that idea, but I'd want feedback from cable as far as the ability to do that. But first thing for that particular committee, you could send them a request that says, hey, can you, and copy cable, can you begin to record your meetings? I think, my opinion is every committee would benefit.
Lisa, are they by Zoom as well?
Well, they meet
Say
in-
again?
Are they, is the housing authority by Zoom as well?
They meet in person.
Oh,
don't
they meet in person?
They meet, they meet in person, and it's really difficult, A, to hear them, because they're in a, little table in this conference room at the senior center.
Okay, I was thinking if they were
Housing center.
virtual, they
It's
could
very
record.
difficult to hear them and the discussion that they have, and even the way it's set up. They set up some chairs, but it's just very, very difficult to hear what they're saying, and I think because they've been obviously doing this for quite some time. I think when they did COVID, they were recorded. So-
Andy Dowd is a member of the Housing Authority, so I can speak with
Andy
him
is, yeah.
this week. Mhm. Yeah, because it may be an option to have them remote
Yeah,
and,
or at least they can meet and have it, recorded at the same time, yeah.
Or meet somewhere else where
Right.
there is the physical setup, whether it be, room that needs to be staffed, or a room that has one of these TVs that can be done easily.
Even at the library, don't we have that set up at the library?
It's not installed yet. I was gonna mention that in my report. The equipment is in, and I think the first 2 weeks of March, give or take, that room will be blocked off for installation, and then after that, that room will have a lot of equipment.
Yeah,
purpose.
I mean, I think it'd be a great idea, and a lot of people would benefit from it. We can bring it up in the next meeting, but that's one of the reports that I wanted to say is that, I've sat through a few meetings, and I can't hear what they're saying. And then when I can't go, I'm not aware of what happened at the meeting. That's it for my reports for tonight.
Okay. Laura, any reports tonight?
So I had an opportunity to do one of the kindness coffee hours. I thank Community Affairs for hosting these. I participated in the Dugout, which is the new business in town that has cricket and baseball simulators. And they also invited me to come back for their cricket tournament, which they hosted last night. And it was packed, lots of really enthusiastic cricketers from
Oh, that's neat.
all over the area. And it was a great night, and they're looking at ways to continue to get involved with the community and the baseball association, so I'm sure we'll see more there. And it's neat to have an activity that we can do when it's freezing outside. Yes. So it was nice to go there. I did get a note from the Council on Aging. I think everybody might have gotten it. They need more volunteers for their boards, so they were wondering if we could just put the word out for that. So I wanted to mention that. And then a very big thank you to the DPW for the ice storm. We're still trying to chip away at the ice at our house, but the roads were perfect. And I really appreciate the lengths that they went to keep the roads safe. So hopefully it was okay for the rest of our public safety team.
Yes, yep, it went off well, actually,
so
considering,
cold.
yeah.
But that concludes my reports.
Thanks, Sheila.
I just want to remind everyone that Wednesday evening at 6:30 at the library is the community outreach meeting to talk about Blake Street. So please come and offer your opinions. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Great. So, wanted to make, also about Kindness Week this morning. I attended a Kindness Week coffee hour with Fire Chief Parenti at Arrow Coffee. Went very well. Had some interesting questions there. I also want to thank the DPW. The salt sand mix was very, very popular because a lot of stores sold out, and
Yeah.
word spread to a lot of people that weren't aware that we had that for free. So usually DPW has it sort of tucked in a corner. It got so popular, they created a mound in the middle of the driveway area and put up a big sign that says, "This is where you go."
Yeah.
And I did go once, and there were 4 or 5 other people there at the same time filling buckets for their houses. And I think they even ran out at one point and had to replenish it. So, huge thanks to the DPW for doing that and publicizing that. I wanted to mention on Wednesday, the Blake Street meeting, and also Thursday, we have an economic development meeting, sort of our second in the number of, probably a few meetings on learning about economic development. This is going to be a little bit more on financial end. with appropriations and financial planning, and I think we'll hear from somebody from Marlboro and someone from the state
Yeah.
on financial incentives and things like that as to ways to attract more businesses to town.
And that will be recorded.
Both of
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, both of them will be recorded. I think both will also be live broadcast and on Zoom, but I'm not 100% sure about the Wednesday one. I don't remember
Lake
what.
Street, well, he was, Dana was good with.
Yeah,
whatever
it
we
probably
wanted. Yeah.
can be. I'm
Okay.
getting a nod from David in the back. I'm doing it. You're doing it.
All
so-
right, David,
Awesome.
thank you.
Okay. The fire station project is out to bid right now. The subcontract bids are due back Wednesday, March 5th, and the general contractor bids are due 2 weeks later on March 19th. So March 19th or thereabouts, we will start to see some real numbers on that, which is anxiety-inducing, but
Yeah.
exciting. And if any members of the public want to see all of the blueprints and specs and everything else, there's a huge set of them. It's 2,100 pages of the base set, and then some addenda that even added more are in the town administration office. Walk right in, they're right on the desk there, and they're also available online. If you go to the project page on the town website, you'll see how to get to those. And so what we had talked about, glad Julianne reminded me of this, is next meeting, we'll be meeting with our legislators, and we talked about each choosing a couple of items. So email me, members of the board, email me for any items that you particularly want to present and speak, just a couple, a minute or two each, quick bullet points, something that you want to champion when we meet with them would be good. And that ends my report. Do you have any reports tonight, Stephanie?
Yes, so of course, we've been attending financial planning and appropriations. We went over some of the information earlier. Police, there are final interviews for dispatch going on. First Amendment rights filming has happened in Shrewsbury and Westboro, so I talked to the staff, yes. Fire, the new fire station project, as you just went through that, he had the site walk through. Hiring update for fire, 9 offers made, 8 funded by the SAFER grant, 2 are female hires, and the start date is March 23rd. New ambulance currently at Greenwood and Attleboro, expected arrival for next month. DPW municipal building sign procurement is out to bid. Administrative assistant position is open. Snow and ice budget was $300,000 spent prior to past weekend's storm. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize the outstanding dedication of our DPW. As I told the board earlier this week, an elderly resident called the DPW explaining that they had been stuck in their home since Sunday due to ice on the driveway. While they acknowledged that this was outside the DPW's typical responsibilities, they reached out in hopes that someone might be able to help. DPW team went above and beyond. They got together with the Boy Scouts, who within hours arrived at the home and cleared all the ice, and the couple was happy as could be. So we just think it's great, and the Girl Scouts, the 2nd grade troop, came out to the DPW and gave them cookies, which is such a sweet, kind thing to do. Veterans, there's a new veterans agent. His name is Jonathan. He has started, so he's helping out. Wednesday, what's the date? Oh, Wednesday, they had coffee hour at the Legion. Clear Path for Veterans spoke. Cemetery flags have been ordered, and they will be delivered to the American Legion once they're in. MIS-GIS, $23,000 incident response plan, federal grant, which the state manages, 20% match by the state on top of the award amount, and tabletop exercise is planned. Cybersecurity training is scheduled, more info coming soon. Let's see, accounting, all of the 1099 forms were sent out ahead of schedule. Currently working on closing out numbers, and we'll get an updated expenditure report into everyone's mailbox soon. Treasurer, W-2s were mailed out, collected the third quarter bills. First commitment vehicle, tax bills were mailed out, payroll implementation going on. Let's see, Health and Human Services, we have a new social worker, Caitlin Mitchell, who focuses primarily on mental health counseling. And they received an MMA, Mass Municipal Association Award for the Greater Boroughs, which was for outstanding programming. So good job to them. Recreation Summer Camp, registration opened February 1st. And when it wasn't fully filled, they opened it up to other towns, which was filled within seconds. New program signups will follow the distribution of the brochure. 6 to 7 new programs were added. The library, like Mitch said, the AV equipment installation is scheduled. Weatherization improvements at the library are underway. Senior Center, our Senior Center Director, Kendra Feldetta, has submitted her resignation effective March 12th, or actually March 11th. Kendra has decided to pursue an opportunity in Westboro where she'll serve as both the Senior Center Director and Director of Youth Services, which is a nice change up for her. We're incredibly grateful for her dedication, hard work, leadership, and friendship she provided to our community during her tenure, and we wish her all the best of luck with her future endeavors. Thank you so much, Kendra. You'll be very much missed. Planning public hearings on February 18th, discussion of zoning-related warrant articles included the ADU bylaw, lot merger, and inclusionary zoning. The subdivision at Southwest Cutoff, awaiting letter from the Select Board regarding the name Revolt, which we have received and sent along.
I'm sorry, we've received and sent,
Yeah,
along.
didn't she receive your feedback from Revolt Drive? You were okay with it?
I was not terribly okay with it, but I didn't know if any other board members had any thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, I respect the opinion of the Historic District.
Yes, which, okay, they
but-
approved. Oh, I thought, that's funny. I thought you were okay with it as a board. Okay.
The board hasn't discussed it.
No.
Oh, well, let's discuss it. Are we okay with Revolt?
In terms of marketing, something on,
I don't love the name.
I
love it.
No, I don't.
no. She's like, you love that?
It's definitely eyebrow raising.
Like Revolutionary Drive, like
Yeah.
anything else, I just found it was a
I don't,
very
yeah.
word.
It met the minimal criteria of it was on the list of historic potential names. But, this is a pretty prominent location as you come in from the Shrewsbury side of town on
Yeah,
Route 20.
it is.
That's gonna be on the left, hopefully with a really nice development at some point, an industrial, economic development type development. Revolt Drive has, maybe at the time that list was put together in 1972 or whatever it was, maybe it didn't have the negative connotations that it does today.
Do you want me to see if they had a Plan B? Or,
Yes, please.
okay, and I'm not sure.
And I think there are some names on the list that
Yes.
haven't been used yet.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
there are quite a few. And I suggested also in that email back to you and Lori that, at least from my perspective, I think it would be a good idea to update that list.
Yes.
Okay.
That,
Oh,
that,
gosh,
it's a
I'd like to see what else is on.
photocopy of a photocopy.
Yeah.
Some of those names, as you said, have been used, but there are plenty of outstanding. It's probably once every 40 or 50 years.
Okay.
We should revisit that list.
All right. So I'll ask
Yeah, I'm
Lori.
glad you brought it up, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Community outreach workshop, we already discussed. That's the streetscape project meeting February 26th. Let's see. Oh, electrical aggregation. That's right. The town of Northborough was delighted to launch the Northborough Power Choice Electricity Buying Program, offering savings and price stability compared to National Grid's residential supply price. The program, approved by the state in January, partners with First Point Power and offers 3 options. Participants will automatically receive a fixed rate of $13.96 per kilowatt, which is lower than National Grid's current price, with a potential savings of $5 per month. Additionally, two renewable energy options will be available upon request. Participants can choose to receive an additional 20% of their electricity from the new renewable sources in New England region for $14.78, or electricity that is 100% from renewable sources, which is $16.84. The program prices are fixed from May 2025 to May 2027, and National Grid will continue to manage electricity delivery and billing. Eligible customers will be automatically enrolled but can opt out, while those with private contracts can join by request. More details and public information sessions will be available soon, and we have it posted on our town
On our website.
website.
On the front page.
Yes.
All the information you need.
Right, so thanks for Diane for all of her hard work on that, and everybody coming together to make this decision. It's great for savings and great options we have for green. Let's see, upcoming events. We already said the Blake Street improvements, public information on Wednesday, 6:30 PM at the library. The Joint Economic Forum, which is Thursday, 6:30 PM at the library. A health fair, April 2nd, 4 to 7 PM. That is aligned with the School Wellness Week, and that's also held at the library. The Blood Mobile Van, which is April 1st at 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the library. Jen, the director of the library, and Isabella, Health and Human Services Director, will be sending out more information in case anyone wants to sign up for the blood drive. And that is all I have.
I have a request, Stephanie. This memo that you put together that you
Yep.
read from, it contains some really, really good stuff.
Yep.
We get it in print on the day of the meeting and don't have it electronically. Could I ask you to finalize this and get it into our agenda packets?
Yes,
And that way we could see it beforehand, and that way maybe your report could hit some highlights, but we would have the ability to ask some questions.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I know, we plug in a lot of the stuff up until the day, so it's not old.
Yeah, right.
But yes,
Yeah,
yeah. You
yeah.
can, yeah, and if there is an update, I guess I can give it to you in form.
Yeah,
Something that didn't hit, because for you to have it ahead of time,
yeah.
yeah.
And if you could do me a favor and email this out to the board also, so I think.
Oh, yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
If I'm looking for this, I'm not gonna find it on paper. I'm gonna find it
Okay,
electronically.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Diane, any reports?
No
Tonight.
report this evening.
Okay, very good. Next up, we have future agenda items. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add or include on any future agenda?
I do.
Julianne?
So we received an email from Mr. Campbell about a Sustainable Northborough Committee. I think it's time that we had that discussion. The current committee has so much talent and information and, experience in this, and I think the town could really benefit from making it an official town meeting, committee. So if we could add that to an agenda in the future, not to overload anything, but.
Yeah, I know when we've talked about things like that in the past, the challenge has been how, what staff member is
Right,
available.
right,
There might be, a couple of new options that have come up.
Yeah. Some of the new people might be interested in that.
Yeah, I love that idea. Thank you. Yeah, we all saw that email, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Did anyone have anything else that we wanted to bring up? I'll bring up one, it's an old idea, but presented with a new option. Back when we formed the Health and Human Services Department, we did that because both the head of Youth Services and the head of the Health Department, both those positions were vacant. So it was an opportune time to think about combining them. Our Senior Center Director, I'm very sad that Kendra is leaving, as Stephanie said. That is also a department that sometimes gets combined within Health and Human Services. There are pros and cons to that. I'm not advocating specifically for that, but that was one of the things that was mentioned back when we formed that some towns do that. as a way of simplifying the reporting structure, having one fewer direct reports to you, which I know you have about 1,000 of them, and
Yeah.
I think that
And I
could-
love the idea of a community center. That would be more of a community center, so it, you know, it's the elders with the youth, and there's so many more options, but Westboro is building a
Yeah,
facility.
I'm not talking about a facility. I'm talking about the organization, the org chart.
But it really doesn't work unless you're under one house. It does not, because, I mean, right now, it's hard enough to get Health and Human Services together. They're in separate offices, right? So like the admins in one office, a lot of it is the logistics, and a community center is meant to bring everybody together and have programming for everybody. So at this time, and I do love that idea, we were thinking about it in Holden as well, but we didn't have the space.
Yeah, again, my thought was not on the facility, but on, just as a follow-up, is the board interested in having a discussion of combining senior center with health and human services? If we're not, we're not, and that's fine. I'm not advocating for that. I'm recognizing that that was one of the items, as some towns do this, and the opportune time to do that is when there's a position vacant. We've got the position vacant, do we want to have that discussion? The answer is no, it's
Well,
fine.
one thing to think about is that their budgets are very different. Health and Human Services right now is operating under
A
mostly.
lot of grants and, yeah,
And
and-
so at the moment, I don't know that could work.
yeah. No, it definitely could not work right now. There's no way.
So it's just the money part, and that's a big.
Well, it's the money part, and it took, from speaking to everybody here, it took a lot, I mean, Diane can comment, to bring the Health and Human Services together, and then to add another piece to that, I think it would crumble maybe. I don't think it would be a good idea at all. I don't think we're structurally there yet, and it's still a work in progress, Health and
Oh,
Human
they're still
Services,
kind of-
because we have the outreach, we just hired Caitlin, there's so many moving parts, and there's still a lot of question on what grants are gonna stay, and so I wouldn't wanna bring another position that is such an important position into that, because there is still a lot of question, and, yeah,
It might not be the right time.
I don't think it's the right time.
I have to say, I think right now, we need more resources for the senior center and for the friends that we don't have. And my only fear if we merge it is that it would reduce what they've already got, just from how thinly stretched we are. I love the idea. I love the idea of having more intergenerational programming.
Me too.
But I think keeping them separate right now is probably my preference, but thank you for
Yeah, I said
the
it
opportunity to
was
think about it.
just the opportunity presented itself that we want to discuss it. Mike, you had your hands up?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's questions about whether or not it's feasible, but having the conversation to put it on the agenda and have maybe more in-depth conversation about it than maybe right now just during the reports, I wouldn't be against. You know, or any other departments or committees or something that can be, you know, shared service or combined, right? The idea when we did the HHS piece was we were, you know, kind of not increasing the budgets a whole lot because we were combining things and doing some shared services. So I think that conversation is worthy to have, even if we land at the same answer. And then just one other sort of future agenda item, or it may not have to be agenda, could maybe just be an update. Was just curious sort of the status we had gotten, like before we made final votes on all our ARPA allocations, of where things stood, how much was spent, completed, an update from that, on that, maybe from Jason or from Stephanie, Jason through Stephanie.
Yep,
I think
okay.
would be useful.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot going on, we're getting ready for town meeting, so there's competing priorities. So whenever that could be compiled, I would appreciate
I think
it.
he already did that, so, yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
Great.
Okay, Lisa, see your hand, I see your hand up?
Yes.
Are you done, Mike? Are you done, Mike?
Sorry, I was muted. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to go back, we're talking future agenda items, to putting that housing authority on. You mentioned to make it an agenda item.
To record their meetings?
To have them be recorded and,
I would, this board has never decided that a different committee gets recorded. If you're interested in having a discussion on, do we want to have all public meetings in the town of Northborough recorded, that's an appropriate policy item. I think if we go ahead and we say, this particular committee we want recorded starts to get a little targeted, I would start with just ask them and cable, hey, could we just do it?
all right, well, and I think they are, actually, you're right, we do it for the whole, for the committees and make them all
Yep.
as equal as we can.
I love having that discussion. So recorded.
Hopefully it's simple and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
There's
it will.
gotta be economical ways to do this, because I
Yeah,
love
so we have,
having it.
we have two places in this building, plus the library, plus the senior center. We have equipment just like this, that almost anybody can just press a few buttons, create a Zoom, and have it be recorded on YouTube.
Do we have like step-by-step instructions like that, that,
I think that.
Staff does.
Staff
Yeah,
does,
yeah.
yeah. I think, at least for here, you still need a staff login to do it, but there might, at the library, there was some talk of coming up with some way that just a regular citizen could do. I think that's a good discussion. So for a committee that does not have a staff person there,
yeah.
can we still take advantage of that? And I think
But you could
hopefully there's a way
also
to do it.
record the Zoom
If-
and then
Yeah.
give the recording to the cable to post.
My fear with just having like a Zoom like on the table in a meeting though, is it's hard to hear the voices. If you're like, you've got 5 people in a room and then one computer that's zoomed in.
Yeah.
The quality is hard to hear.
Just keep in mind, we only have David and Dana.
I know, exactly, no,
Right.
And they do the school
Yep.
meeting, so it's like,
Yeah.
No, it's.
Yeah, I think that's part of preparing for that meeting,
Yeah.
is do an inventory of how many committees and how many meetings there are that are not already recorded, and then how can we do that? So this board could, snap its fingers and say, do it, but the actual doing it is complicated.
yeah.
In the town that I used to live in, I was part of rolling that
Yeah.
out, and we did record absolutely positively everything.
Yep.
But it took, a couple of years to get there, particularly to find ways of doing it inexpensively. But I think it's very feasible to do here, but we need to go through the process, but I love the idea of having that discussion.
If we're going to have a complete discussion about it, I'd like to get the opinions of at least the committee chairs that are not recording now, and see, are they comfortable with doing it?
I mean, any public body can be recorded. So I'd be curious for any feedback that's not comfort related. If it's comfort related, they're in a public body, they're doing their work for the public. They already need to be ready to be recorded. If they are talking about items that are confidential, they should be using executive session. If some committee has a gray area that's understandably confidential but doesn't qualify for an executive session provision, that's where you can have a discussion.
Yep.
The good thing about recording is with the new AI helping with minutes, because I do have to do minutes. It should be a hand-in-glove situation that makes it a little bit easier, because the AI now that's been set up is getting pretty articulate, I think. So it would help them in that respect as well.
All right, so I've put Sustainability Committee creation and recording all meetings on sort of a future agenda list, and we'll figure out when the right time is to have those discussions. Because They're big items that need some work from staff to get ready, but those are good. Any other future agenda items to talk about? Public comment. Is there any comment from the public, either remotely or in person? Probably not in person because nobody is here. Fran Baxton, let me bring you in. Fran, if you could identify yourself, let us know what's on your mind, please.
Fran Bactran, 76 Cedar Hill Road, you can hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, great. I just have a quick question because I happen to be out of town and I did want to participate virtually either on the 26th or the 27th. But two things. One, the 26th meeting flyer did not indicate that it would be interactive live, and neither of them are on the town calendar to see whether they even have links for Zoom or YouTube. So if that can be figured out before Wednesday or Thursday, for those of us in sunny South Carolina, we would appreciate it.
I can confirm that Thursday's meeting will be posted tomorrow.
Okay, great. It's too late to post for Wednesday,
I don't
but that's
see
that's kind of a staff presentation.
Right. I think that's the difference, because I don't see a
It's
posting
on the
for that.
homepage. It's,
Yeah, it's under town news, because you had asked
Yeah.
earlier, it's under town news.
I don't think it has a link for participation virtually, but I can double check.
Yeah,
no, and you're,
it would be good if we
She might.
if we can do that, if that's reasonable to do for that meeting, that would be great. Sounds like we are certain it's going to be recorded in any case. Appreciate that. Thanks, Fran.
Thanks.
Someone has walked into our meeting during public comment. Do you have any public comment for us tonight?
I do.
Great, if you could come on up, identify yourself for the record, let us know what's on your mind, please.
Hi, I'm Jen Tolman from 203 West Main Street, and I know 4 out of 5 of you. I don't, because I just do from the activities that I do in town.
A lot.
But I'm not here as master plan or cultural council. I'm here just as Jen, but I bring in knowledge from both groups. I know that there's been a lot of talk about what to do with, empty buildings and things like that. And I have some of my ideas, I think were presented, Steph presented them to you at your previous meeting, whatever.
Yeah, that was a while ago, yeah.
Like outside at White Cliffs, for instance, maybe like we could add some Porch Fest thing going on, or some open market, or a pop-up event. I did, try different avenues in the past. 2023, I asked Lloyd Connors and whatever Gallagher's first name is, hey, can I use, 4 West Main for a quick pop-up? It was a no. I asked last year to kind of talk to Tim, but then Tim's, So here I am again, and I did meet with Steph. I threw some ideas by her, and I just wanted to come just to say, and then, you know how to get in touch with me to give me the feedback or whatever your ideas are. And I certainly don't expect an answer tonight, but I think that there's a huge opportunity in town for, I'm trying to do a 3-minute elevator speech.
I'm not keeping track of time. Don't worry
Yeah, a
about it.
huge opportunity between the successful programs of the rec department, of the senior center, of the library, of now the human and health services, I don't want to say it wrong. And I just saw in Franklin, they're all combining and using some of the opioid money or whatever to do programming that's sort of like across the board. So I think that we have a huge opportunity. Our feedback from Cultural Council survey said people want something to do at night on the weekends. So if you ever drive downtown Northborough at 9 o'clock at night, there's nothing to do and no place to go. I think personally it would be kind of cool to like crack open the doors of 4 West Main Street and do like, fun activities that are run by the town. I use that, I, of course, would be the volunteer that would love to coordinate all that fun stuff until it's certainly not like a huge money-making idea, but it's more like a community building, kind of like cool stuff to do.
Like maker space
Like a
stuff
maker
and-
space, kind of like an open artsy thing, kind of like similar, like a music on a Thursday night or a comedian on a Friday or something to do that's not drinking related. It's something where people who don't have any place to go at night in the colds in the winter was one of our feedback, which really stuck to me, like a place to go, like something to do. So the town of Weston has a very successful program. I think Steph mentioned the AIC. what you guys got in a packet.
Yes. you
So,
were passed
they,
out.
and, I'd be happy to talk one-on-one, you know how to reach me. But that is a really great model of what we could do, for our community. So while you're thinking about all these ideas and RFP this and look for rich people that and da-da-da-da-da, all this stuff, if you want to dial it down and, you know, have something like grassroots, community stuff, you know, I did it last year with Open Studios and Porch Fest. We're going to do those again this year through the Cultural Council. I think there's a great opportunity to do something. And, you know, Master Plan NCH 3-2 says let's use buildings that are vacant for something cool temporarily. I wouldn't mind doing a pop-up there for 6 months as a trial thing, town-oriented, whatever. I don't want any money. You guys do what you want with it, whatever, but I just want to throw that out there. And you can give me direction. Take it or leave it, Jen. See you later. You'll let me know, or if it's a cool idea.
I love the ideas you're presenting. I don't think you probably did not hear us talking about 4 West Main Street and the reuse and things like that a little bit earlier. We discussed the possibility of creating a building reuse committee for 4 West Main as well as the current fire station. We didn't act on that now, but I anticipate we'll be acting on that pretty soon. And I really like the idea of thinking about temporary spaces, temporary uses while we figure out permanent uses. What I don't know the answer to is, you know, what spaces are ready to be used for code and safety and anything else, and that's, you know,
That's
above our
what
pay
came
grade.
up recently, is what Mitch was saying. So I was just trying to, and I think you and I discussed this, like, have the rec go into a couple of floors. Well, the code, all the building codes changed, so we can't even go in there now without doing some fixes, because I was thinking, oh, okay, well, just new carpet, little paint, we're
Yeah,
good to
artsy
go.
stuff, artists don't care, it
Right,
looks like.
right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know if there's one floor, like the beginning floor, that we could safely go in there and that we would be okay with the code changes. But I know we were looking at the upper floors, and that was a no-go because of egress, the stairway widths. There was umpteen different code violations, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll look into that, because just to get bodies in there and generate some type of interest would be
Right.
great.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, I
there
mean,
heat,
There's partial heat.
partial heat?
Yes.
So how much space are you envisioning that you might need?
Look, I could use this room. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Look what I mean, I did the quick downstairs town hall gallery. So, and Melican, I'm getting art from Diane Hansberry is generously giving some middle school art to go there for next month. So, you know, I mean, I'll take anything.
So depending on the size of the space is what your project would be. So if we could safely use,
the restaurant space.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, that's
Then
probably,
you could do like a calendar of events, and it wouldn't just be like Jen's events. Jen would come to you guys for, you know, what do you guys think about this? And we'll do Thursday night
Yeah.
karaoke, whatever. I mean, it could be anything. It
Yeah.
could just pop in and read your newspaper on the comfy couches. And they're
Yeah.
not gonna be new couches. We'll put it out that you know, we've got a great community. They're very generous. So if you say, hey, does anyone have any extra couches? I guarantee, if we do a little Facebook post, you would have people
get them.
driving their trucks full of furniture to fill the space. I have no doubt, if I said to my college son and his friends, I need this place painted, come clean it out, they would do it in a second. I wouldn't have to pay them.
Wow, can
and-
I borrow
and I
your
can
kids?
vouch.
Who knows? So,
Prevailing wage?
no, zero. They would do it for pizza. I would buy the pizza, and that was it. And I would buy it. I wouldn't put it on the town. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I feel like I respect all of you. I don't know how you do these meetings, circles and circles and circles and circles, because I'm like, but I would like to see something happen. Even if it's a temporary thing, and then you say, you know what, Jen, you have 6 months and you're out, fine, and move me someplace else, or kick me out and throw me in, it doesn't matter.
yeah, sorry, go
I
ahead.
love your creativity and your passion, and you've always got so many ideas. So thank you for bringing that passion in so many different areas to the town. I didn't mean to cut you off, though.
No, you didn't. Yeah, I, because a big question of this is legal stuff regarding what we can use. If you
Yeah.
could maybe work with the building department and find out,
Right.
focus, you
And then
know.
I
it-
just have to be careful insurance-wise if we're insured, if something, God forbid, happened.
Yeah, it would be find out what would we need to do to have the restaurant space be some sort of an ad hoc community center.
Right, because I know there's 2 entryways there, and you wouldn't, I mean, if they could cut off the downstairs area.
Caution tape.
With a couch?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
would suggest like contacting Weston, because the town of Weston literally does it with that old library.
Yeah.
Like, that's the model, instead of like other places, it's a nonprofit and all this other
Yeah.
stuff.
I think the issue with
town.
this is that space has been unused for more than 2 years. So that starts to trigger issues of now it needs to start to meet current code, I think. That's, you know, I would let our
Yeah.
code officials determine that, where if it was in use continuously, then it doesn't
It
get
would
triggered.
be almost grandfathered in
Yeah,
a way,
yeah,
yes.
exactly.
yeah.
So-
I have a question for Jen. Have you and the other cultural council group figured out what you're doing with the ARPA money? Would you, do you think you could discuss if it did require like $10,000 or something, that
So we granted that for outdoor art.
outdoor art?
Yeah, and it can't, and at this point, it's after
Oh.
January 1st, so we can't reallocate it.
Okay.
Well, I would do a fundraiser. I could come
Yeah.
up with a fundraiser.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we would have, if I put it out there, people would come forward. We have really kind people in town who want to see cool things happen. So, and they could, you know,
Like we could make something, if the legal options are there
Yeah.
that are not crazy expensive, we can find a way to make what you suggest. And that would be good for West Main, it would be,
Yeah.
you know, good long-term. I love the idea, and we've seen other towns do this, of taking unused space in town, whether it be municipal owned or privately owned, and use it for something temporary. You know, an unused storefront. You know, work with the building owner to say, give us, you know, give it to the recreation department or cultural counselors or the economic development committee, once we have one, for, you know, 6 months for a $1 lease, something like that.
Right.
And people will start coming into your parking lot, we'll get something out of it also, or, you know, a seed startup that wants to experiment with having a business in town, but doesn't have the funds to do it, use some space like that, or a lot of
there are
neat ideas.
plenty of places like in Boston, Cambridge, like all the big cities do like these pop-up little shopping thingies.
Yeah.
So, you know, they just show up with their little table and their stuff, and they sell their stuff. And, you know, that's an option too. If somebody said, well, you need to generate money, well then, you know, maybe like half of it would be, you know, like 5 tables, and that would be rentable, you know, whatever. I mean, there could be all kinds of different things. There's no, I don't have like a.
Notice how I
Westboro
threw
did
in the
something
economic
recently.
development committee in the middle of my sentence, which I keep bringing up.
Yeah, yeah. Westboro's got the new collaborative, so that's
Yeah.
like a bunch of little businesses that can't
Yeah.
afford rent, but they want a little
Yep.
spot. So, I mean, there's a lot of different options, and I'm open to helping with any of it,
good.
the above. Just,
All right.
just something, anything.
Right.
Make sure that
Yeah,
gets
I
in the
think it's a
minutes.
great idea. I'm glad that you're there at the public comments. And I want to just say too that I thought pretty much all 5 floors of the 4 West are individually heated per floor. Because when they were leasing the buildings by floor, everybody was responsible for their own heat.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's just what works now from that. Yeah, and I don't think every single floor is heated at this point. But I will check on that. I'm gonna,
You should be able to figure out
Yeah.
first floor would probably not be
This,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
the simplest would be the restaurant space.
that's what I'm thinking.
That's,
No elevator needs.
right, no elevator needs, it's wide open.
The senior center or the rec department, for instance, not that they would want to host classes on a weekend, but, you know, they could handle the signups, and, you know, stuff could happen, you know, there's no reason why it couldn't be used for those the library activities could happen on a Sunday in that space. Just to like expand their stuff, and that money, you know, would go to their things, and, yeah.
Right, Jen?
And it's always surprising, or pleasantly surprising, how many creative people we have in town.
Yeah.
So many.
Yes.
Wait till you see how many are gonna come out for our open studios this year.
Ah.
Excellent.
Lots of nice people. I'm excited.
Okay, Jen, thank you very much.
Thank you, sorry it took so long.
Tonight.
No,
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
All right, last call for public comment. Is there anyone in person or remote that wishes to offer any comment on just about anything? Seeing none others, 1, 2, 3, public comment is closed. Is there any other business to come before the board tonight?
No, thank you.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion made by Julianne, seconded by Laura to adjourn. Roll call vote.
Yes, aye.
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. We are adjourned 9:15 PM. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay.